What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And some big news dropped today. The Giants, just ahead of the legal tampering period, are signing Sterling Shepard to a one-year contract extension. He's back with the team. Young Shep, now veteran Shep, missed the majority of last season after tearing his ACL in Week 3, but was still proving to be a very solid player through those first 3 games before going down with that unfortunate injury. Now, there was a lot of talk going into this offseason. Will the Giants bring back Shep? How many injuries is too many injuries? Is he at the point where he might consider retiring? Well, no. He's decided that he's going to stay, and he's going to stay with the Giants after pretty much serving the entire season as a leader and kind of almost as like an assistant coach on the sideline for the Giants. So I'm really excited about this, Alex. I want to get your take on it. I think that Shep, listen, a lot of fans were ready to move on because of the injuries, but I still think that this is a player who is very valuable for everything that he does on and off the field, on the sidelines. So I'm happy to see Shep back. So we're going to go ahead, give our takes on it, dive into it, reaction and analysis. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode and subscribe to the channel if you're new. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on Sterling Shepard re-signing with the Giants?
Well, shout out to Anthony for pushing through with the sore throat. You can hear it in his voice, but nonetheless, he's here to continue giving us fantastic analysis, and we're talking about Sterling Shepard today, as he mentioned. And Shep is an interesting player, right? We don't know the contract just yet, but it looks like the Giants are putting the whole band back together. You know, we got Daniel Jones back under contract. We got Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag. You got Sterling Shepard coming back. I feel like Odell Beckham Jr. coming back is like destiny. You know what I mean? Like really just putting everyone back together. It feels kind of weird that everyone's coming back and, you know, obviously maintaining what we had in 2022. But Shepard, a lot of people are on the fence about him, right? And I totally get it for what it's worth. The guy is not reliable. And that is objectively true. He is not reliable. But at a minimum cost, what's the harm? You know what I mean? If he's making a veteran minimum deal, he's not making much, and he's able to give you half a season of production. Maybe, you know, he's injured for a couple games at the beginning, but then he actually is available during the postseason. Maybe they just keep him healthy, don't use him as a primary guy, and that way he's healthy down the stretch. Maybe it just kind of manages workload a little bit so that way he can be healthy, and the Giants are changing that turf at MetLife, so who's to say that he doesn't, you know, finally escape a season unscathed? Obviously, coming off an ACL tear isn't ideal, but you have OBJ doing the same thing, so maybe they'll be working out together and working through this stuff, and then of course you have Wan'Dale Robinson also, so if the Giants were to go get OBJ, you're looking at 3 receivers coming off ACL tears as your primary weapon, so it's certainly not the best strategy if I've ever seen one, but it'd be kind of fun to see the whole band back together nonetheless. Sterling Shepard on a veteran minimum deal, I mean, you can objectively say that's a fine decision, right? The Giants, you're talking about less than $1 million, like $1 million, not much at all. What are you getting in return for that? Maybe you're getting Zion Gilbert, who shouldn't be on anyone's team. You know what I mean? Like, that money just rolls over into a player who can actually produce when he is healthy. Sterling Shepard, when healthy, is a guy you can rely on. He's someone that produces. He can get open. He's a good separator. He's fine. He's a great guy in the locker room. He's the glue that holds it all together. So I love to have him in that. He's kind of the Energizer bunny of the sideline when he's not healthy. So even when he's injured, he offers this team a lot of value off the field. So I think there is something to be said about that. He's kind of like a coach in a player's role. So if you're looking at Sterling Shepard and you're kind of like pissed off that the Giants signed him, as long as this is a veteran minimum deal, which I think it probably is, I don't see any harm in this signing. It's not going to hurt the Giants significantly. It's not going to, disrupt their ability to go out and bring another player in. This is going to be such a small amount of salary space allocated to a player. It's literally just having him around is what's so valuable. And if he does come back and able to contribute in some way, some form, it's going to end up being in a good deal for the Giants, Anthony. So when you're looking at Sterling Shepard, where do you see the most of his value coming? Coming off ACL tear, of course, we're not entirely sure how much he's going to be able to offer next season, but there are some things he can do even if he's not on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, even Brian Dable said it himself. He's one of the best leaders. Sterling Shepard is one of the best leaders he's ever been around. And the Giants made it a priority to keep this guy because of what he provides, not only on the field, and I understand he's not on the field a whole lot. He's missed 33 games across the past 3 seasons. Like, Shepard is never on the field playing with pads, but he does go to every game on the sideline. A lot of injured players don't do that. They don't have to be on the sideline. They don't have to be as charismatic and as involved in the game plan and as involved involved with the players as he is. But Shepard goes to every game. He is just the perfect definition of a good teammate. And I think there is a lot of value in that, especially, Alex, because we're looking ahead to this draft and we're talking about the Giants hopefully going and getting a top wide receiver in the first round. Well, that young guy is going to need some veteran leadership, needs a mentor. And I think Sterling Shepard could perfectly be that mentor for him. Also, I do think it's interesting that the Giants have been reportedly so interested in OBJ, dating all the way to the midway point of last season, and now just ahead. Tomorrow is the legal tampering period. If the Giants want to go out and sign some players, it's going to happen tomorrow. But right before that happens, they extend Sterling Shepard, who is Odell Beckham Jr.'s best friend, on a 1-year deal. I feel like there's that's not a coincidence, right? I mean, Saquon Barkley's going to be back. Now Sterling Shepard's coming back, and you just have to think maybe Odell Beckham Jr. is also coming back, and I actually think it would be pretty cool to see happen. But with Sterling Shepard, what does he provide on the field? Because, we talked about it, Alex. He does offer a lot off the field, on the sidelines, being that coach player. But on the field, do you think at this point in his career, 30 years old, coming off of another season-ending injury, how much do you really think he can provide? What are your expectations for his performance this season?
I mean, expectations have to be low. I mean, we're looking at last year, he put 154 yards on the football field and a touchdown. The last time he had over 400 receiving yards is back in 2020. He was 27 years old. And for what it's worth, he's still only 29. He's not that old. He could still have, or he just turned 30 days ago, rather. So, he's not the oldest person out there. He's the same age as DeAndre Hopkins, a couple other really top-end receivers. Again, he's not DeAndre Hopkins, and he's not, reliable based on the health history. But look, if I'm guessing what he can offer this team, it's Wan'Dale Robinson's backup. That's kind of how I see him. Both of them coming off ACL tears, similar timing. I see Wan'Dale Robinson as their primary slot guy. Isaiah Hodgins is going to be a starter. He's going to be a wide receiver 3. Hopefully he's a wide receiver. That means we get 2 more receivers who are better than him. And then you have Sterling Shepard, who's kind of like a reserve. He doesn't have to be a starter anymore because the Giants need to make significant improvements. If they go out and draft a Jordan Addison or a Quentin Johnston or a Zay Flowers or a Jalen Hyatt or a JSN, or maybe they sign OBJ or McCole Hardman or, Paris Campbell. There's a ton of guys. Obviously in the mid-rounds, talk about Michael Wilson. We talked about Andreas Iosivas. There's a lot of, deeper targets that we've mentioned. And I imagine the Giants are going to add a couple receivers this year, no matter what it looks like. Sterling Shepard should not be a starter anymore. I don't think he really should be. I think he should be a reserve. He should be the first guy to come in to supplement Wan'Dale Robinson if he needs some break. He needs, maybe you just platoon the slot position. That way you have 2 guys coming off ACL tears. You don't want to lean into them a little bit too much. You don't want to overwork them. Maybe you just platoon that spot for a little while until they're both kind of working their way back and they look strong. And then you roll with Wan'Dale, who's the future at the position, and you have Shepard come in on specific sets. If you're going to do some more bunch stuff, if you want to put some guys in motion, he's a physical guy, decent run blocker. He can do some stuff for you. He's experienced, he's a veteran. But I think we're beyond Shepard being a starter on this team, because if we situate him as a starter and we lose him again to injury, we're just setting ourselves up for failure at this point. You know what I mean? We're just setting ourselves up for disappointment. So having him as a backup, as a reserve, coming off the bench, helping this team wherever they need, supplement stuff, platoon the slots position for the time being. He can play on the outside if need be. If someone else gets injured, he can slide in and help out. That's where I see his role kind of filling. I don't want to see him as a starter anymore. I don't view him as a starter anymore. I see him as kind of this utility piece that can keep everybody else healthy and also add some value to this offense and not have to rely on him, because as long as we're relying on him, we're just waiting for a hole to open up wherever he's playing, because the health history suggests that we cannot trust him in that department. So Anthony, when you kind of hear that, does that make sense to you? I don't see him as a starter anymore, but I think he can definitely have some value as a utility piece.
No, I totally agree. I think that is where his value lies. It's as a player that is going to be more in the background. I think that if the Giants go into the season expecting Sterling Shepard to be a starter, they're probably setting themselves up for failure, and you don't want to go into a situation like that, because with Shepard, even if he is one of the best talents on the roster, I mean, look at his career. It's been very productive. He was really good for those first 3 games before he got hurt. He had 13 receptions, 154 yards, and a touchdown in 3 games. That's a really good stat line. That's a starting level receiver out of Sterling Shepard for the beginning part of 2022. But then he got injured again, and that happens every single year, it seems like. So if the Giants go into the season again expecting him to go out there and be that starting level player, they're going to be disappointed. And so I think that I agree with you. You're right in the sense that Shepard may be a starting level talent, but he clearly can't handle a full season's workload. He just can't do it. So you kind of just want him to be a really good backup for you, who comes in, plays in certain packages, goal line situations. He's a great route runner, maybe a third and short if you're going 5 wide, something crazy like that. I think that Sterling Shepard does have an avenue to see playing time on this team, and I think he'll see a good portion of it. I think he's probably on the field a lot, actually, because I still think Shepard's a really good player. Plus, with Wan'Dale Robinson, Wan'Dale was injured in week 6. Shepard was injured in week 3, so he's got to have at least 3 weeks ahead of Wan'Dale Robinson in the road to recovery. In fact, on that note, Sterling Shepard actually did release a little statement to Josina Anderson of CBS Sports. She said that she was on the phone with Sterling Shepard, and he told her that he, quote, started running last Monday for the first time on the grass, end quote. So he said that it went really well, so that's a good first sign. He's on his way there. He's getting back to full strength. Will he be ready for week 1? I'm not sure. Will Wan'Dale Robinson be ready for week 1? I don't know. So the Giants still need to add more receiving talent. And a guy like OBJ, who just had that workout, looked really good, looked strong. He is ready to play week 1. So I think that, listen, Sterling Shepard, I'm happy he's back. I love what he provides as a leader and everything, but I don't expect him to be on the field all that much, especially at the beginning part of the season. So, Alex, I assume you're in the same boat. This is just step 1 of adding depth, but the Giants still need to go into free agency in the draft and bolster this receiving core regardless.
100%. I mean, if you guys are looking at social media, Pro Football Talk said OBJ is looking for $20 million per year, but then Jeremy Fowler or somebody else comes out and said he has not made any demands in terms of yearly salary. If he wants $20 million per year, I am not on board with that. You know, $20 million per season for OBJ, you can miss me with that. Not committing that much money to him coming off a second ACL tear. It's too much. You know what I mean? It's too much. We don't know what he really has. We don't know how much gas he has in the tank. If you're looking at like $12 to $13 million, I could get on board with that. You know, I could find a way to justify that. $15 million, I could even squeeze a little bit more if we had to, but 20 is too much for me. You're talking about, you're talking about almost double the amount Saquon Barkley is going to get paid if he plays on the tag. So it's like, you know, the value you're getting is just not worth it, in my opinion. But because the market is so thin at receiver, who's to say he doesn't get that much? You know, it's definitely possible. But it would be kind of crazy to see all these guys really come in and, you know, just put the band back together as old times would suggest. And it's fun. This is going to be a really interesting offseason. The Giants have right now, according to Over the Cap, $16.2 million. Of course, this is before any reconstructed contracts for Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson. Kenny Golladay is going to save $6.7 million. So we do have a couple bucks to spend. Tomorrow, we're going to look at TJ Edwards. We're going to look at some of these linebackers that we haven't really touched on just yet. There's a couple guys who will be available. The linebacker group in free agency has suddenly become very deep. This was a kind of a unit that there was a couple standouts. David Long, Tremaine Edmonds, you know, Jeremy Pratt. There was a couple guys like, all right, we know who the big guys are. But now you're adding guys like TJ Edwards. You're adding Eric Kendricks. You're adding Bobby Wagner. You're adding White. You're adding Levante David. There's so many linebackers now on the free agency market. So the Giants, now that there's a lot of supply, should theoretically drive the price down for some of these guys. So maybe we can cash in on some players that are being undervalued and fit our scheme really nicely, Anthony. So, you know, what are your thoughts about kind of talking about TJ Edwards, some of the linebacker core and how they're going to kind of work? I think it's going to be linebacker, wide receiver, 1A, 1B priorities. Those are going to be the two positions we're seeing a lot of investment in, whether it's draft capital or financially.
Yeah, well, we're hearing a lot of buzz about the Giants and their interest in the linebackers in free agency. I saw a report that said that they're interested in TJ Edwards specifically. We've also seen, you know, David Long come up. We know that Eric Kendricks has a connection to the coaching staff. And I think that the first domino to fall, as Patricia Traynor of Sports Illustrated said, will be the linebacker position. I think, yes, extending Shep, good move. Get your veteran, solid backup receiver. And they're going to continue to address the wide receiver position. They got to probably add at least one starter in free agency to prepare themselves for the draft. But with TJ Edwards and some of these other linebackers, there is so much talent out there this offseason, and it is such a huge need for the Giants, and they actually have a lot of money to spend to make competitive offers. Now, that's not to say that they go out there, break the bank, sign a linebacker to a contract north of $10 million per season. It means that any of those players that they want to sign, the Giants have, in theory, more money to sign them than anybody else. So when it comes down to negotiations, matching contract offers, and a bidding war on a player like a TJ Edwards, the Giants should be able to win whatever bidding war they want to, as long as the player makes sense for them and the team makes sense for the player. So TJ Edwards, speaking of him specifically, I think there's a really good chance, considering that we just heard that the Giants plan to pursue him, that tomorrow afternoon he could be agreed to a deal in principle with the Giants. It's possible. As soon as that legal tampering period starts, we've all seen it happen where just contract after contract after contract just gets signed immediately. You see all these players just get picked up out of free agency. Tomorrow's going to be really exciting. I can't wait. I'm super excited, of course, to talk about TJ Edwards, whoever the Giants sign, if it's not Edwards or if it is. But I'm excited to discuss all of that right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Comment your thoughts on Sterling Shepard and your excitement for tomorrow, the legal tampering period, down below in the comment section. And make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. But we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.